When you're using keyboard mode for a keyboard-based instrument, like this, you get an extra set of controls. On the left is an arpeggiator. And if I just move the scale up a little bit to make this a bit more obvious, you have 3 layers of controls here for the arpeggiator. So at the moment it's switched off. So if I play a note, it just plays. If I switch the arpeggiator on, I can choose a resolution to begin with, like 1/4 or 1/16. And then I can choose what direction it plays in. You can see here we have up and down, as played, or in a chord. So if I was to switch that onto down, I'd have to hold a second note or a third note to make that make any sense. Or up and down. Or as played. That interprets the order in which I press the notes. Or I can have it play as a chord. And for any of those, I can also make it work over more than 1 octave. You can see that the default is 1 octave, but I can switch it to work over 2 octaves. It's now duplicating my held keys over an extra octave, which is really cool. You can also see, if I just turn that off for the moment, that in the keyboard mode here, we have some interesting controls up at the top. And iMaschine uses this light guide system, just like Native Instruments' complete control software does. And at the moment, all of these lights are lit up. One of them is slightly different, and that's because that's showing me the root note for the key that I'm in, which is C. If I tap on the scale button, I can choose different keys, and as I do that, you can see the root note changing. So if I was to change it to D, and then within that, I could also change it to D minor. And what that does is it knocks out some of the notes. You can see that some of the notes here have been deselected. And what that means is it's now impossible to play a wrong note. So if I knew I wanted something to be in D minor, but maybe I wasn't a very confident keyboard player, I could switch my scale mode to D minor. Now I can't play any notes that will sound out of context in D minor. And you can get more complex with this as well. You can do stuff like you can switch it to a minor pentatonic scale, right? And if I just deselect the scale button, I can get both my octaves back. Which is really cool, because that means you can do some more interesting things without having to hook up a MIDI keyboard or be a great player. If I just switch scale mode off by going back to C and chromatic, which is the default, just like if you sat down at a normal MIDI keyboard, it wouldn't have any strangeness going on. It would just be like this. Now, I'm going to switch to a different instrument to demonstrate chords. And if I go into chord mode, again, it can be switched off by default. I'm also going to turn my arpeggiator off. Okay. So there's my part. I could switch chords on. So I could say, I want it to create a minor harmonic chord. Or I want to create a diminished chord. There are all these different kinds of chords. I might go up an octave. And also you have chord sets here. So and you can see there are loads of these. And if I was to record any of these parts, they would record with those correct MIDI assignments. So you would really be recording a chord or an arpeggio without having to play it by hand. So that's a really nice way to get more complicated patterns in iMaschine.